morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where first off, a friendly reminder that you have until the end of the day Sunday to tweet me your entry for a chance to win one of two amazing swag packages from our friends at Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is doing the sound mix for Ant-Man. They're very proud of it. And so to celebrate, again, they've given me two of these packages to give away to you. Also included, not pictured here, are two Fandango passes. I dare say this is the best giveaway we've had yet from Dolby Atmos, and so far I already have a ton of fantastic entries from so many of you on Twitter. But for those of you who have not yet tweeted me, again, here are the rules. You need to tweet me at Grace Randolph, and you also have to include the hashtag Dolby Atmos. But then with the characters you have left, you have to tell me what you're looking forward to hearing when you see Ant-Man, because again, we're celebrating the sound mix of the film done with Dolby Atmos technology. And the reason I made it through Sunday is because you can wait until you've seen the film and then also tell me what you liked hearing the most when you saw it. So one's like what your wish is, what you're looking forward to, and then the other option is what you enjoyed the most after actually having seen the film. So again, thank you so much for everyone who's already entered. The competition is going to be very stiff here, so I can't wait to see and announce the winners on Monday here on Morning Movie News. All right, so let's get on to the news for today, where Disney continues, speaking of Disney, also behind Ant-Man, but another very popular brand for them, of course, is live-action fairy tales, and they continue to pursue that very aggressively. And their latest headline is that they're greenlighting, or at least putting into development, an Aladdin prequel called Genie. Now, I think this is both a good and bad idea. Let's start out with the positive, right? So the good thing is that every time we talk about live-action fairy tales, without fail, a number of you say, well, what about Aladdin? I'd really like to see Aladdin brought to the big screen as a live-action fairy tale adaptation. So clearly Disney, maybe inadvertently, I don't know if they're paying attention to that or not, they're just like, this is what's left. But maybe, hopefully, they're, just like with Mulan, they're seeing that there is a huge appetite for their live-action fairy tales, and people would like to see that very successful formula applied to something beyond Western Europe. So I think this could be very, very successful, but I think they've chosen a route to do it which makes it the most difficult. But anyway, before we get into that, I just want to reiterate why Disney is putting headlines out for so many live-action fairy tale properties, right? I mean, they can't possibly be making all of these in the near future. The only one that's really guaranteed to come out anytime soon is the live-action Beauty and the Beast, set for 2017. And the situation is that, as we've discussed before, live-action fairy tales, live-action or animated, are in the public domain. So because Disney's had so much success, the cat's out of the bag, all the other studios are like, and just like they're catching up to Disney and Marvel in terms of comic book movies, they're getting better at their live-action fairy tales as well. I think Pan, by the way, would have been a very strong contender if it wasn't for that very unfortunate Rooney Mara as Tiger Lily casting. Talk about the difficulties of adapting a multi-ethnic property. I hope that they don't make that same mistake with Aladdin and Mulan. For instance, the rumor that Alibaba and the 40 Thieves would focus instead on a white dude named Alan and the 40 Thieves. I was like, oh, Hollywood, sometimes you're so ridiculous, it's both funny and sad. And out of touch. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But anyway, Disney therefore wants to call dibs on a lot of properties. For instance, Universal beat them to the punch with The Little Mermaid, and that would have been huge for Disney. If I were Disney, I'd still go for it, in fact, because they have such a strong association with that character, thanks to The Little Mermaid animated film, obviously, the beginning of the Disney Renaissance, and really, before there was Frozen, there was The Little Mermaid. That's how big a deal The Little Mermaid was. So I think that I'd be like, Universal, and also Universal disagreed with Sofia Coppola, so I'd be like, aha, you guys stumbled! I'm going to try and take advantage and jump into the lead. But anyway, so that's why Disney's putting out so many headlines and just being like, don't touch it! Although, for instance, they were going to do Pinocchio, but Warner Brothers and Robert Downey Jr. are moving forward aggressively with the Pinocchio film, as we have discussed, and so they put Tim Burton on Dumbo instead. And, no one else is going to even try with Dumbo. They're like, good luck, Disney. You'd have to have, certain levels of magic to do that. But anyway, here's the situation with Aladdin. Well, I think there is a huge interest in seeing Aladdin on the big screen, and I think it could be really exciting to see. I think that going the Genie prequel route is not a great idea. Because first of all, how the heck do you do this without Robin Williams, right? who is going to fill in for Robin Williams? I just think that that is a thankless task and a little bit of a tasteless task. Robin Williams was just so iconic. And, he didn't voice the Genie in the animated series, but still, this is going to have to be someone in a live-action project, and I know that the Genie is a wonderful character, and people could be like, it's like James Bond, like, you can recast, it's okay. But I wouldn't do it, especially because the movie is chock full of wonderful characters that don't have the same hurdle, right? I'm surprised that they're not going to bring Aladdin and Jasmine to the big screen. Now, potentially, and I hope this isn't the case, Disney's like, we don't know if a movie with, Middle Eastern leads would do well globally. So if we have the Genie, maybe he can meet some white people. And you're like, really? Come on, just go for it. Jasmine is an incredibly popular Disney princess, and the possibility of bringing Jasmine to the big screen in a live-action property is, I think, incredibly tantalizing. Also, Aladdin. I really feel that one of the reasons that people want to see Aladdin adapted is to get some testosterone into these Disney live-action fairy tales. And I think that it's a shame. The Genie's a guy, so I guess that counts. But again, the shadow of Robin Williams is going to hang over this project. So I much would have preferred to see the adventures of Aladdin and Jasmine and then see how they can fix the Genie problem or have them deal with another magical entity. Aladdin and Jasmine are kind of like, a Middle Eastern old-time Indiana Jones, so they have lots of adventures that they can have. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Also, they said that they were going to explore the world of the Genies, and that sounds like something that could be really amazing visually. So Disney could pull this off, but I just feel that I don't know why they've given them such a huge hurdle, and that's the memory of Robin Williams. And Robin Williams is irreplaceable as far as I'm concerned. So I like the idea of an Arabian fairy tale from Disney, considering the effort and the money they pour into these things, but I think they've chosen the wrong focal point. So I'm asking you, what would you prefer to see? A Genie movie or an Aladdin and Jasmine movie? All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story of the day is another Disney story. And this, there's a really big Disney fan who's a BTT viewer, Tim Tran, I believe. And Tim always, I always appreciate Tim's feedback on the Disney videos. And yesterday he called to my attention the news about Shanghai Disneyland. And they released a lot of information. I'll put links down below in the video description, where you can see not only the articles but the videos they released showing you concept art for the upcoming property, the resort in Shanghai. But one thing in particular that really blew people away yesterday was the reveal of the Tron ride, which is going to be in that park's Tomorrowland. It looks absolutely phenomenal, and you can see now why Disney was trying very hard to greenlight a Tron 3, because they were like, we have a whole ride based around it. It would be nice to have a movie to support that. But then after Tomorrowland just completely fizzled, they're like, oh well, we'll just have a nice ride. But the ride looks spectacular. I urge you to check out the video down below. It'll make you want to buy a ticket to go to Shanghai in 2016. Hopefully it'll open on time, we'll see. But it's spectacular what Disney is able to do these days with ride development and just how far the theme park business has come. I do wish that they were a little bit more aggressive with what they were doing here in the States in terms of their ride development, and I think they need to up their game. We have the Avatar Land opening in Animal Kingdom, I believe, also in 2016, but still, Universal is very aggressive in their theme park development with the Harry Potter stuff and the King Kong things that they're building as well, and I think Disney needs to reach that level with their US theme parks as well. But I strongly urge you to check out these videos. What they're planning to do in Shanghai is nothing short of revolutionary. So if you live in the area of Shanghai, I'm super jealous of you right now. And get ready to go ride that Tron ride because it looks amazing. All right, so that's the second story of the day, and thank you again, Tim, for pointing that out to me. I'm surprised it didn't get more coverage, actually, because the plans are so impressive. But then anyway, the third story is an interesting one about actresses and money. Gimme, 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 gimme. Patricia Arquette really opened a floodgate when she made that speech, her acceptance speech at the Academy Awards this year, when she talked about inequality in pay. Now that is indeed a horrible problem, not just in Hollywood, but in the world. And, I think that inequality of pay is really unfair. But I do think that some actresses are going a little overboard and running with this, and I think not only kind of like making the argument look bad, but making themselves look bad in the process. I think that while something needs to be done behind the scenes in terms of payment, and women need to be more aggressive in their negotiating for salary, which has always been a problem with women. Women sometimes are reluctant to do that, and women need to realize that they have to go toe-to-toe in contract negotiations just as their male counterparts do. I don't know if this is something that should be taking place, an argument that should be taking place in the public eye. Now, there are two instances that really inspired me to talk about this today. The first is Amanda Seyfried going around telling everyone that she was absolutely furious to discover that she was paid just 10% of the salary of her male co-star during a certain period in her career. And so, based on what she said, it was surmised that she was either referring to the film Dear John, where she starred opposite Channing Tatum, and also About Time, where she starred opposite Justin Timberlake. And I think in both those cases, and Amanda Seyfried, and her argument was that her career was at the same level as her male co-star at the time, yet for some reason her paycheck was just 10% of theirs. And I can say, with all respect to Amanda Seyfried, that her career was not at the same point as her male co-stars at that time. No one, to this day, goes to see a movie for Amanda Seyfried. Amanda Seyfried is not a draw, and that's another thing that women need to work on. They need to work on being draws at the box office. That's when they start to get the big paychecks. Sandra Bullock gets big paychecks. Jennifer Lawrence, who we're going to talk about in a second, gets big paychecks. You need to be someone that people will pay to see, and women should be very aware of that, and they should focus on that in the kind of roles they choose, right? If you're always the ingenue, if you're always the girlfriend, if you're always the eye candy, well, eye candy's cheap because people like new eye candies. People like something new and pretty to look at. Scarlett Johansson's getting paid a lot these days because she's moved beyond being the eye candy. And she's someone, I think, also a trick here is you have to, obviously, as you can see from the names I'm mentioning, you have to have a strong female fan base. Anna Kendrick gets paid a lot of money for Pitch Perfect 3. Rebel Wilson. Melissa McCarthy, I'm sure, gets good paychecks. You need to be a draw, and I think part of being a draw is, appealing to female fans. You need to be more, again, than just eye candy. So Amanda Seyfried, you shouldn't just... I think that it's important that equal pay for equal delivery, right? It just shouldn't be like, hey, the male and female leads should get paid the same. No, male and female leads aren't always on the same level. So that's one aspect of the conversation. Now, the other is that somebody was very excited to hear that Jennifer Lawrence said at Comic-Con in an interview, a BTC viewer, so I feel bad having to bring this into the discussion, but I think it's important. And Jennifer Lawrence, in an interview, said that she was willing perhaps to go back to the X-Men films. She'd have to see how she felt at the time. And she said there were two things that it would depend on. And the first was, how am I going to feel about it? When they make the offer, if I feel nervous about it, then I shouldn't do it, she said. And I was like, okay, yeah, trust your gut, J-Law. I understand that. I respect that. But then I thought her second reason was in really poor taste. And she said, it depends on how much money they're willing to pay me. Now, I understand that she's upset about what happened with American Hustle and that she wasn't paid as much as her male co-stars, although her role was much smaller than some of the people. Like, getting paid less than Bradley Cooper and Christian Bale, okay, that makes sense. But Jeremy Renner, I'd be like, she should be paid what Jeremy Renner was being paid because their roles were comparable in size. Her role actually was much bigger, and, again, Jennifer Lawrence is a draw. A lot of people saw American Hustle who probably wouldn't have because Jennifer Lawrence was in it. So, but she's already fixed that with Sony with her ridiculous payday for Passengers. So I think with Passengers, even though a number of us were did a double take and we found out how much she was getting paid for that movie, $20 million up front, 30% of the gross, we were like, okay, you've got your pound of flesh, good for you, J-Law, now let's move on. But to continue to say, have a mercenary approach. And I'm just curious because every time I talk numbers with a lot of you, you're like, oh, why do you always focus on the money? Well, how do you feel now that Jennifer Lawrence is doing it? And I think, again, I don't think she should not focus on the money, but I think that's a private matter that's between her agent and manager, and the studios. And I think to use that and talk about it in public interviews, I think is in really poor taste, and I think she's in danger of making fans feel like she's just in it for the money, right? I mean, do you want to be a part of the X-Men universe or not? I mean, you should get paid fairly, but are you only doing it for a paycheck? I mean, talk about paycheck movies, right? I mean, even Robert De Niro, even though we all know that he so often makes movies for the money, He very rarely is like, I just needed a new wing on my house. Right? I think the only person I've seen do that recently is Samuel L. Jackson, who's just like, my wife has expensive tastes, so I need to keep working. And I think even there we were all like, yeah, we kind of suspected that because we see the choices that you're making. But Jennifer Lawrence is supposed to have more integrity than that. And I thought it was really in really poor taste. Even if she was joking, I just didn't think it was a good joke. So I'm curious to how you guys feel about the whole issue, and what do you think about it playing out in the public eye? All right, because if these actresses are expecting fans to be like, yeah, pay them more, I think they're going to be like sorely disappointed. All right, so the viewer question of the day is actually a holdover from a while ago. So Rabia Khan, I apologize that this took me so long to get to, and I hope that you get to see that I answered it. So this is from Rabia Khan, which was like before Comic-Con. But Rabia had a good question. It said, hi Grace, question. You said that Mad Max may be an awards contender, which I find really strange since most awards contenders aren't so fanboy friendly. I haven't seen the film because I'm not 18. Good for you for playing by the rules, Rabia. But by the way, if you can get an adult to take you or someone who's over 18, there's nothing wrong with the film. You can totally see it. Don't worry about that. And I think that was a mistake that they didn't try and get themselves a PG-13 rating. But anyway, Rabia says, but can you explain why action films like this one would be nominated, since it does look so different from previous awards contenders? Love your show and keep up the good work, Rabia. 3 smiley faces. Well, thank you, Rabia, and again, I apologize that it took me so long to get to your question. But anyway, I don't think that Mad Max is a guaranteed awards contender. I think that if it is going to be an awards contender, it's going to take a serious push from Warner Brothers. And as I've said before, that really hinges on whether or not Warner Brothers wants to pour any more money into Mad Max, because at this point they've still lost money on it. They haven't even broken even. So do they want to pour more money after bad? I would spend the money because I think that Mad Max is really fantastic as a film. It's one of the best films I think ever made, actually, and it deserves recognition. I think the way things went down for Mad Max aren't really fair, and I think if Warner Brothers believes in this movie at all and believes in our auteur filmmakers and trying to make auteur blockbusters, which has really been their rallying cry lately in the press, they need to back that up with backing up these movies when it comes to awards season, right? I mean, they came so close with The Dark Knight. Maybe if they pushed a little harder, it would have been nominated. And so I think they need to, they need to show filmmakers that they're going to go all the way with these movies, not just in terms of advertising them and finding them an audience, but also during awards season. Although, as I've said before, I think Warner Brothers let George Miller down there as well, because Warner Brothers shouldn't have let him make an R-rated movie that cost so much money. They should have been like, you have 2 choices here. A cheaper movie that's rated R, or the same budget that you want, but you got to go PG-13. And I would have gone to the, the ratings board and said, what do we need to do to make this a PG-13? Let's sit down and talk. What do I need to cut? And I would have maybe even done it before I filmed and said, these are our plans. What do you think? So anyway, the reason I think that Mad Max Fury Road could be an awards contender is because, again, it's such a good movie. It's so artistic. It's such an auteur vision. And I think that the message is so fantastic. And it's almost, I actually would say it's a perfect movie. I don't think the comic books have helped it, because they show that it was maybe perhaps lightning in a bottle for George Miller, but still, that lightning deserves recognition. I would put it up there with like Inglourious Bastards. And Inglourious Bastards did get recognition. It was nominated for awards, and I felt personally robbed. I was like, the Hurt Locker over Inglourious Bastards, you guys are so political. But anyway, so I think that if Warner Brothers pushed very hard, it could at least get the nominations. Certainly for cinematography, I would like to see it get a Best Picture nomination. I really do think that so far it deserves it, at least the nomination. And I think, maybe even directing from George Miller. And also, well, they don't have stunt work, but, the visual effects and the practical effects are really, really spectacular there. And also, certainly, production design. So I think there are a number of areas where Mad Max deserves to be nominated, and even more so where it's actually, I think, competitive. So, but it all hinges on Warner Brothers' ability to run a campaign and how aggressive they're willing to be and how hard they're willing to work. And so we'll see if that happens. We'll see when award season rolls around if they do that. So I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think Mad Max is an awards contender? And if you were Warner Brothers, would you spend the money? All right, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. That's today's morning movie news. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question. Anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.